Hi everyone, today I'll be going over how to pronounce the organic functional groups. When you see chlorine, because it's a halogen, we call it a halide. Sometimes it's also called a halide. I say halide. Fluorine is also another halogen, so we call this a halide as well. Halide. Bromine is another halogen, so we also call this one a halide. Iodine is the last of the halogens, and we call it a halide, or again, can also be pronounced halide. When you see an OH bonded to a carbon, we call this an alcohol group, alcohol. When you see an oxygen in between two carbons, we call this an ether, ether. When you see a C double bonded to O, one side is a carbon group and the other side is a hydrogen, we call this an aldehyde, aldehyde. So aldehyde will have hydrogen. When you see C double bond O and both sides have carbon groups, this is called a ketone, ketone. When you see a carbon double bonded to O, one side is a carbon group and the other side is a OH group, we call this a carboxylic acid. Carboxylic acid. So this one is not an alcohol group anymore. Now it's part of this whole entire functional group called carboxylic acid. So this one looks very similar to the carboxylic acid, but instead of OH, now this is O bonded to another carbon group. So you have C double bond O next to an oxygen, which is next to a carbon. This is called an ester. Ester. So the way that I memorize it is I see a whole bunch of oxygens and I say, ooh, esters smell sweet. And we use esters in a lot of fragrances for that sweet smell. When you see a nitrogen connected to carbons, we call this an amine. Amine. So the A is like gallium. Sometimes you might hear people say it amine. So amine, I call it amine. Now, if you have a nitrogen that is no longer connected to only carbons or maybe a carbon and hydrogen, you see it next to a C double bond O. Right, so you see C double bond O, one side is a carbon group, the other side of the carbon is a nitrogen. We call this an amide. Amide. And that's it. Have fun with your nomenclature.